What's up, everybody? I'm Paul Hickey with NoOffSeason.com, host of the Sports Card Strategy Show. Welcome to Lefty Cards right here on the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network, discussing the latest trends, best practices, and insider tips on sports card investing. This episode is brought to you by NoOffSeason.com, the number one place to make money flipping sports cards. Get a free 30-day trial today at NoOffSeason.com. And now, everybody, it's time for Lefty Cards.
What's up? What's up? Here we are at my office space, and we are coming at you live with another Lefty Cards episode. Yes, it's going to be different this week. Yes, it's going to be unique because what we are hearing today is me from my office with a mic plugged in to a mic stand, and we're coming at you with a guerrilla warfare video on this StreamYard, because what you're seeing tonight is me and my house in transition. I lost my computer. I lost what's going on. I can't find what's going on. I had to come up to my work, wanted to get a episode out, tried to record it with Turner this morning, couldn't find my computer. Turner had to go to work. Now we're here. So you're getting Lefty McKee live on Lefty Cards from my office building. So what we're going to talk about today is a couple of things that I'm really excited about in the card world, a couple of plays that I've made recently, a couple of things that I'm excited for when we go national in a couple weeks. And then what you're going to get from me today is my best effort coming forward with some of the cards and some of the recent stuff that's happened in the sports world, and how that's going to adjust what I'm excited about and what I'm looking forward to over the next 6 months in regards to how sports cards investments will, I believe, change over the next month and then over the next 6 months, and then where the release of what's going to come out soon will be looking forward to. So what I need from you guys is I need from you to sit back, ask as many questions as you can in the YouTube comments, and I'll try to officiate this, because this video is not coming to you live. As we've known, the video is not coming to you live. The audio never is coming to you live if you're listening on some of our streaming platforms or wherever you listen to podcasts at. But what I would love for you guys to do is to be able to submit comments so that we could answer some of your most engaging questions. What you can do on that is go to nooffseason.com and become a premium member. If you do that, you will be able to you'll be able to submit any questions to Paul and I, and how we can follow up on your next big push towards your next level of sports card investments. You can start wherever you're at, from where Turner's at with the $1 to $10 cards. You can start where I'm at, where you're at $500 is a card is a really big deal for you. Or you can go even further to where Krim's at, where he's buying potentially $1,000 lots when it comes to people's collections and things like that. Or you could even be above that. So if you're wherever your level is, Lefty Cards is trying to give you an aspect that is available and obtainable for your next step, or the next right step in your leadership development, or your portfolio development, and what you are going towards next. One thing that we will talk about today, if I'll give you a little bit of rundown, is we're going to ask some questions that Turner asked me. He's not going to be here, but I'm still going to answer those, and how Turner and I have our in-Turner episodes. And we were supposed to record that this morning, and now that he's at work, he can't sit on the podcast with me. But I will be able to answer some of his questions. I want to talk about some of the baseball draft and the All-Star Game stuff that's coming up this week. The draft is still going on, but the first round is behind us, and that's the card for card purposes. That's what's mainly relevant for us as investors. And then we'll talk about All-Star Game stuff and who and why I think now is a good time to get out of some of your investments that you've made on maybe season-long plays. And then we're going to talk about soccer. We're going to talk about Messi and then Lamine Yamal, and a couple of other players like like Florian Wirtz and Musiala and some other guys like Xavi Simon and some other people that I have been talking about for the past couple of months, or 6 months to a year now. So where they're currently at, and then we will talk about the Wimbledon back-to-back champ Carlos Alcaraz and why I believe now is a good time to get out of him as if you are in him at all. So with that being said, let's jump to our first commercial break, and it'll be we'll hear from Paul about nooffseason.com.
What's up, everyone? I'm Paul Hickey with nooffseason.com. Why should you subscribe to nooffseason.com's premium membership? Do you like the content on this show? Want more? Well, a free 30-day trial membership at nooffseason.com gives you a Friday edition of the Sports Card Strategy Show called The Overflow Show. It's a premium podcast for members only every Friday, and you can ask an unlimited amount of questions to build your sports card investment portfolio, and I answer them for you. I put in the work, research, and do the analysis, give you the best possible answer so you can increase your chances of making money flipping sports cards. And if that's not enough reason to sign up for a free 30-day trial today, you get Sports Card School, tons of premium members-only articles, and our new formula-based sports card rankings to help you find the cards with the best ROI to make money in the hobby. Sign up today at nooffseason.com.
Thank you, Paul. The first thing I want to talk about is the absolutely electric summer tournaments that we've had in regards to soccer. Some of the best tournaments that I like to see is that you hear of the Euros, and then you also hear, I mean, obviously there's the World Cup above that. Then you have Euros, Copa America is also very big. And then with our nations being backed behind that this year, it is definitely even bigger than it was. And then both of those tournaments both have their final yesterday in regards to how those champions come out. If you did not watch that, Spain won the Euros, which is they are back-to-back champions in the Euros, and then also they defended their title, back-to-back Euro champions, and then also the Copa America final was last night. And although that it was maddening, and we'll get into that, I believe that, and that is definitely worth talking about in regards to from a news perspective. The Copa was wildly controversial in a lot of ways, and it was just messed up on a lot of ways. But the final was last night, and Argentina did win back-to-back Copa championships as well. So we've seen the Spanish national team come back-to-back and win Euro finals, and we see the Argentinian national team go back-to-back in Copa finals. Even though that there was a broader aspect of the Copa this time around, we saw the team still rise to the top, where you had Lionel Messi, Di Maria, Illarramendi. All of theirs is their last game in an Argentinian uniform, and then there's so many new, fresh guys that are going to come up in that Argentinian national team to the cream of the crop. And then on the other side, you see Spain. We've seen Lamine Yamal just rise to incredible status over this tournament when he finishes with 1 goal and 4 assists as he turned 17 in the middle of this tournament. He started this tournament when he was 16 years old and and played every game. So we've seen Yamine Lamal play just crazy amounts of games. So we're going to start with how I believe the Argentinian national team game affects Messi's cards, because that is something that I have always been speaking on, is Messi cards, especially that 2014. I've continued to say Messi, blah, blah, blah. Copa America would be a time that I would want to sell Messi and all these kinds of things. We have seen, especially yesterday, how Messi in general did not dictate the overall success of this Argentinian national team. They did not lead and die, whether one way or the other, on the back of Lionel Messi. The reason why I say that is I watched these games, and although he was a part of the game, he was not the game. And I expected it to go the other way. I expected Messi to still control the overall environment of every game that he was in, and that the Argentinian national team would rise and fall based on his play. I was surprised by that, by saying that there was enough Argentinian gusto in what they were doing. I was surprised at how the team didn't necessarily need is not the right word, but they didn't necessarily fall off after Messi. They were able to kind of keep a competitive status together without him. And what I mean by without him is we saw him exit with a pretty nasty ankle injury about 68 to 70 minutes of this last final. Lionel Messi left the field with tears in his eyes. You could tell like every moment meant every moment meant something to him on this field. He was wearing the blue and white stripes for potentially the last time. And for a man that's as most decorated as you can be in football history, we saw Lionel Messi crying as he left the pitch with tears in his eyes as he's on the bench, as he knew that him leaving the field could potentially have cost them the championship. Now, spoiler alert, Messi's team did not lose. They ended up winning. Martinez had a fantastic goal in extra time as the Colombian defense just opened up, had one mental mistake in the second, the extra time, and it was ugly. Extra time was ugly. And I thought Argentina would win this game, but I didn't expect it to happen in the way it did. Now, what does that mean for Messi cards? That's what we're all here for. Sports cards. How does Lionel Messi's prices and how do our investments that we've been buying be affected by this? I do think that Messi's cards end up falling in value because of his injury. The Copa final is where I expected all of us to be able to sell our Messi cards, or a good portion of our Messi cards, this summer. There are plenty of other tournaments that Inter Miami will get to enter with Messi as part of it, but I don't believe that now Messi will have the same kind of status as he did, because we don't really know the status of the injury that he did take. There's speculation that it could potentially be a torn Achilles. I don't believe that's the truth. I think it has something to do with the front half of his tendon in his foot. There is still some thought to say that this is a pretty bad injury for him. They kept zooming in on his foot, and it was swollen to all Dickens. I mean, it was swollen. So it's remained to be seen how long he's out. And if it's a 2 to 4 week injury, or if it's a 2 to 4 month injury, that's much different for his card prices, especially for those of us that are going into the National expecting us to be able to move Messi cards. We might have to pivot into acquiring Messi cards. Now, here's why I say this. Messi, like Jordan, is one of a kind. Their status is already completed. We've talked about this many, many, many times. No, so if Messi's market goes down and continues to go down, I will continue dollar cost average buying on the way in. I will buy a 2014 World Cup. I will buy a 2018 World Cup. I will buy a 2022 World Cup card. I will buy a 2004 Mega Cracks. I will buy the 2004 Crest. I will buy the 2004 different parallels of the other options. I will get as good of graded options as I can do that. I will keep collecting, because I believe that Messi is a good long-term investment. I believe he is a GOAT play for the long term. Now, if you are looking at a short-term value flip, Messi might not be the guy that you are looking for. You might have to look at some of the younger players that have a lot more risk profile, but have a lot more immediate upside in the next couple of months. Now, our selling markers that we have coming up soon are a lot of the beginning of actual seasons. We have seen that the tournaments are largely over. Transfer markets will begin to open as we come into the later part of the summer. And then we'll see the Premier League and some of these other competitions that are maybe early in the summer, in the year. For instance, the FA has some stuff going on. You see I believe, the Super Cup, I believe is what it is. It was where the leaders of Europe will play the leaders of the Champions League. So it'll be Real Madrid just creaming somebody. I believe it. Who was that? Who won it this year? I can't remember. I can't remember who it was, but it'll probably be the Super Cup. Will probably be Real Madrid just steamrolling, but it might be the first time that we see Mbappe in a Real Madrid uniform, and potentially, we're going to see big transfers like that. So some of the things that we'll see coming out of this tournament will be the first news into what their new clubs will be like. We still have yet to see any big transfers of like Gyökeres moving to a team like Arsenal. Harry Kane might still stay at Bayern, but we've seen him lose again. And so it's like, does a team really want him like that? We've seen Jadon Sancho potentially signing again. We've seen there's just a bunch of other transfers that are out there. So you will see some of those markers come forward, but the next real markers could probably be international tournaments next summer, or a Ballon d'Or this year, or later this year, potentially if Jude Bellingham wins that, or if you have Mbappe winning that again. But a guy that I was really excited about just to watch, that I was actually slowly, really slowly taking a convincing towards investing in this guy, is I kept saying, don't invest in Yamal, don't invest in Yamal, don't invest in Yamal. He's too young. You won't see him. Blah, blah, blah. And then I saw that he was starting Spain's team at the Euros. And I was like, okay. I watched the first game and he was highly influential. And so I said, okay, I will dip my toes into this. I'm not willing to necessarily say this as an investment on the podcast because I'm just kind of exploring this. I don't want to necessarily, I don't always recommend things to you guys until I feel extremely confident it as a recommendation. So I started saying, yeah, I don't know if we should invest in this guy. I don't know if we should invest. He's too young. And I'm willing to say I still largely felt like that was the take I was going to play. But I said, okay, I'm gonna risk a little bit into this water. And if I am going to risk a little bit into this water, I'm going to get something that's potentially rare. So I went out and did get some Topps Chromes. Let's see. I ended up entering a couple of auctions based on what the formula was saying in terms of Yamal. So I ended up getting into, let's see, my purchases on eBay. I ended up getting into some Panini Donruss Optic FIFA Yamals. So I ended up getting some rookie hollows. I got some of the different parallels of that. I ended up getting a cubic hollow and some others like that. I ended up getting probably about 10 of those Yamal cards. And then I got the opportunity. I saw in a Facebook group that I'm in that a guy was selling PSA 10 mega cracks of Yamal. So that would be the Spanish version of his rookie card, and what is commonly the 2004 Messi is the mega cracks. And so it's kind of like for the different kind of an investor. It's not necessarily an American product that is very highly circulated over here, but it's one that is one of my potential favorites. Pop count is a little lower. Sometimes it can be a little more valuable. Sometimes they're less valuable. So this guy was like, I have 3 PSA 10 cards, or 3 PSA 10 mega cracks that I'm looking to move. So I ended up saying, okay, what do you want for them? And then he was way over where I. And so I was just saying, okay, well, I'm not there. I need to come down from that, and I need to be at this number. And he said, how about this number? We ended up settling on all 3 of them. I bought all 3 of them from him, which you're like, Kendall, you're just dipping your toes in this guy. And I was like, yes, I was, but I also got such a good deal I couldn't pass up on this. So I ended up buying 3 PSA 10 mega crack Yamals from this guy, and I bought 3 of them for $600. So they were about $200 a piece. And at the time I bought them was around July 1st. It was around July 1st, and they were going on average for $265 a piece on eBay. So I was able to get them around $215. So a very good investment for me. So I ended up getting those in. I got them in, and then the day that they got in, he scored the banger of his goal in the Euro, and he already had some assists and everything. So people were pretty hyped about him. I ended up listing the buy it now version of one of these for $350, and immediately it was paid for. So I had one that I sold for $125 profit without all of the, or $135 profit without all the fees, and I'm not calculating that necessarily in this specific arrangement. But I ended up going into and then I immediately listed another for $375. Somebody offered me $325, and I immediately smashed that counter offer as well. So I was able to move out of 2 of the cards that I have on these mega cracks for more than I paid for the entire lot, and I have a free hold. So I have a free Lamine Yamal hold right now, and the price, the comp of the last comp from July 14th, which was yesterday, the average was $337 sale. So this card is already $115 higher than when I bought it 2 weeks ago. So if we're having that kind of an increase, if you're having a 56% increase in 40 days, let's see, the increase in 14 days was according to Market Movers, the 14-day increase was a 27% rise. So I was able to buy into them for less than that comp from 14 days ago. So I got a much better return percentage wise, and I was able to come in with a big enough profit margin to be able to move out of these cards in 2 weeks and be able to build up my portfolio going into the national, which is what I wanted to do. Is I have a free Yamal card going into the national that I can trade really easily. I can trade in and out of Yamal because now, since Spain has won the tournament and he ended up getting some of those special honors, and he's going to be like a guy that's talked about a lot this summer before the start of Barcelona's season. We will see how Yamal's value will continue to be high, especially over the next 6 months to a year. I would say that there's still probably time to get in on this guy, but it would be in 3 to 4 months rather than right now. But this is going to be a card that I'm going to potentially be able to have a lot of liquidity in when I go to the national, and I'm able to add this to a deal to a trade up to something. What I would like to potentially do is take Messi's low market right now and trade into Messi from a high Yamal and be able to put a storage of value back together when I have the liquidity of moving into another aspect of Yamine Lamal. Okay, so what I've said about Yamal and what I've said about Messi, I think what I'm hearing now is like you've got one GOAT and you've got one young up and comer. The up and comer has just increased at least in 40% of value. If we look at Messi's value, Messi's overall value, I'll go ahead and get the let's go to I'll share my screen here, and then we will bring this up. And this is the 14-day chart of this Lamine Yamal 2023 Panini Mega Cracked La Liga EA Sports Edition Master Rookie. So this is going currently for 337. I was able to get out of one at 350, and I was able to get in them for about 215. So then we go to Messi 2014 base PSA 10. This card is already back up to 153. So I imagine this card comes back down because the last 90-day average it's up from where it was because of the Copa America. So I could get out of these if I wanted to, and I probably would list these right now and see if there were some that were trying to snipe on low values. Potentially, I believe this card's going to fall with his injury. I believe it could fall back underneath $100. So if you're willing to kind of dollar cost average into it and dollar cost average the sales as well, you could sell anything at about $150 and then buy back in at about $100, I believe, over the next 5 to 6 months. Depending on how bad his injury is, if it's not that bad, then the $150 price tag is probably going to be pretty good. But I imagine that the sale of the next sale of this card will not be $153. I would imagine that it goes down. And because if let's look at let's look on the charts here, let's view this, see if we can go down to some that are available. We have some with 2 days left. Let's go to the auctions of this card on eBay. This card is currently got 2 days left and is currently sitting at $40. I would imagine this is not going to end very high. So if we just search 2014 Prism in general, $53 currently for a 9. Let's see, 2014 Messi Prism PSA 10. And then we're going to let's see if there's one that's ended more recently today. Oh, one was sold today for 150. One was sold yesterday for 107. So that this comp was not on there yet. So it's $107 coming down. That's probably ended during the game. So somewhere between 150 and 107, probably let's call it 120, 125. This could potentially be back in the 120, 125 range, and I believe that is enough to probably get your money back. If you were buying in around the $60 to $80 window, you could flip that into 120. I would move those. A lot of people have been asking me, Messi Sports Illustrated for Kids cards, what are you doing for those? That's just not a big win. I don't believe it's going to be for a lot of us, so I would move out of that right now. I was able to buy into them around $3 to $5, and I think they're currently about $8. So if you want to move out of those, I don't think those are going to go back into the nuclear status. So I believe you can get out of those and get into a better Messi card. I'm not really concerned about a $5 to $8 loss. So I have currently kept mine because I just want to keep as many Messi cards as I can. But if you want to get out of them, I think now is a good time to get out of those. Okay, let's go to our next commercial break, and then we will come back to talk about one of the questions that Turner has asked me recently.
Kendall, are these people ready to start grading their sports cards? CGC Cards is the perfect place to slab your favorite sports cards. From their crystal clear holders to their affordable pricing, CGC Cards is the perfect stop for your grading needs. Go to cgccards.com to start grading today.
All right. So back to Turner's question recently. He texted me and we're talking about the National. And he first asks me, he goes, how much money should I bring to the National? And what should I be prepared for? Well, one thing that I had to tell Turner was it's going to kind of be different per person because it depends on your buying liquid, depending on what I can tell you to bring. What I did tell him is I said, Turner, bring as much liquidity as you can to the table. Now, that doesn't always have to be cash. What I like to do is get cash once I'm there because I don't like traveling with cash. But there's usually ATMs on site and things like that, especially there have been in Chicago. I don't know what Cleveland is going to be like, but I know that I can stop at a gas station or something like that and get some cash if I need to. So what I like to do is potentially have some in electronic PayPal or Venmo and then some in cash, as I'm willing to move in and out of these things at a card show. But I think it's different per each person. So I take $1,000 or $2 with me in terms of liquidity that I'm wanting to move in and out of a couple of cards. And what I've said last week with Krim is I like to move into bigger cards that I don't see at other places. I'm not really necessarily going to the National to look for a Bowman Chrome auto of Xavier Isaac or something like that. Like that's pretty obtainable for me on the regular, even if I have to pay eBay prices. But what I do like to look at the National is some specific things that are a little bit different than I look for normally. On the internet or something I can get into without the fees. Usually what that means is a card that's a little more of a GOAT status for me. That's what I like to buy at the National. I like to buy some things that are longer plays for me because I usually I take all my short-term profit and then I fold it into a long-term play. That way, as a storage of value, as it goes up and down, I can potentially beat inflation on the storage of value rather than just having the money sit in my account. I'd rather have the card sitting in my portfolio. So as its value rises and as the dollar of the value changes, it's not necessarily just staying stagnant in my account. It is potentially going up with inflation in general. That's just like what I like to do. That's my specific strategy, and it's worked over the last couple of years on the scale that I'm continually working on. So I bounce off things like the formula. I will be looking for. I will actually go on to nooffseason.com and look at our top trending cards, and then I will play that list and really look at, okay, what does the formula have? Is there potentially cards that I can look at here that are formula related? I might try to get into something like a Paul Skeens auto because this guy looks like he could be a perennial guy that just keeps going up. And so if there's a good deal on a Paul Skeens auto, I might be interested in something like that. I could potentially be interested in a vintage Messi card. I could be potentially interested in a vintage Ronaldo card because we have talked about how his high-end market is a little bit different than Messi's and a little bit looked over at this point in his career. I could be interested in an Mbappe card as we see him potentially fixing to go into a Real Madrid kit. And then this actually goes into the next question that Turner asked me. He asked me yesterday. He said, let's see. He goes, let me grab it. Looking at my show notes. Are you done buying quarterbacks, or are you maybe going to try to snag some at the National? I think it's a great question because as we are going into the next hot season of investments, now is going to be the next big season is football. We've come out, or we're in currently the All-Star break for baseball, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but a little teaser for that is I believe now is a good time to get out of baseball. And at this point, if you can get out of baseball and into a quarterback in a reasonable amount of time, then I think it is still achievable to get into some football cards while you can. So if we look at guys like CJ Stroud, for instance, he is a guy that a lot of people have been picking up this summer. So if we look at his PSA 10 of his base Prism right now, it is at $110. And so I think a chart of that's about $10 more than I was able to pick it up for at the Dallas show, but it's down over the last 30 days. This card is coming in at a 11.5% drop over the last 30 days. It was over $120 pretty regularly over the last 30 days. And if you look at the last 90 days, this CJ Stroud Prism is down 17%, and the sale before that is down 21%. So with those percentages, when we're looking, of course, we're just looking at CJ Stroud. Let's add another quarterback in here. CJ Stroud. The three guys we've really talked about a lot are Will Levis, CJ Stroud, and let me add this Will Levis card in here. PSA 10 of a Will Levis card is over the last 90 days. It's currently down 17.5%. And then we'll look at Richardson. My computer is loading here. I probably should have had these pulled up beforehand. But when we look at Anthony Richardson, his base Prism as well is over the last 90 days, his base Prism is $56, also down 11%. So they're about half the price of a CJ Stroud. Now, if you wanted to jump to a silver, for instance, that's a little bit different. But just based off of their percentages, they all are down currently between 10 and 17, 10 and 20%. So let's look at Bryce Young as well. One of my favorite speculative investments over the next couple of months, because there's just so many people that just don't respect his game right now. And he is at $38. The Prism base PSA 10 of Bryce Young is $38, down 11% right now. And Will Levis's is at $47. So $9 difference between Will Levis and Bryce Young. And I just don't think that Bryce Young is going to be selling for that low. So to answer your question, Turner, yes, I will be picking up cards at the National, especially if they are down here at $38 to $40. If I believe these cards are going to go up to about $75, $80, potentially even $100, back to that CJ Stroud level over the next couple of weeks, then I am going to acquire them. Also, Jared Goff is a guy that I've been looking to acquire quite a bit. Jared Goff's cards are not as popular to find, and if I do find one at the National that I believe is a good price, then I'm going to move into a Jared Goff card as well. That Detroit Lions team is looking really fun, looking really good. They got weapons all over the field. I believe in what they're doing there in Detroit, and I think the best is yet to come with this franchise. So I will be looking into moving to a CJ Stroud. Now, I ended up buying a Jared Allen card. I mean, not Jared Allen. That is totally different. I moved into Josh Allen over the last couple of months, and let's go see where his cards are currently. Josh Allen. I ended up buying. So the PSA 10 of Josh Allen's Donruss base right now is down 17%. And then his base Prism PSA 10 is, let me delete one of these so I can get this card on there. His base PSA 10 Prism is down 22%. So all these, literally every single card on this list. So I have CJ Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, Josh Allen, two different parallels of him. We got a Prism and a Donruss. Everything is down between 11 and 22% down over the last 90 days. Now, when you look over the last 30 days, let's just say from the end of June, they're a little bit up, but I would imagine for those of us that are buying these cards, we are buying them over the last 90, expecting them to pop in the fall. So I would continue to still do that, considering most of these cards are down from where they were. Now, we saw a big jump in Josh Allen sales in June and July, but they've all now come back down as well. So it maybe been a false comp or something like that, but they've all been relatively good. Now is still a good time, in my opinion, to keep buying these football players, at least for the next couple of weeks. Now, as we get closer to the August turnaround, we are going to be moving in. But here's what I'm going to say about this. I believe you could make a really good flip into I believe you could make a good flip from baseball into football, and that's the last thing I'm going to talk about today on this episode. So we're going to move to another commercial, and then I'm going to slowly add baseball back into your life.
Yo, Lefty, we use a lot of data, don't we? Well, I just want everyone to know that they can get the same data we get by signing up at marketmoversapp.com. Sign up at marketmoversapp.com today, but use the promo code NOOFFSEASON to save 20% after a free 14-day trial. That's marketmoversapp.com, promo code NOOFFSEASON.
All right. So now we're going to go back to what I know a lot of you guys love. We are currently in round 9. As I pull this up, we are in round 9 of the MLB draft. But really, the first 10 to 15 to 20 picks are the ones that are really mattering from a card perspective. Now, when you look at all of these guys, there's going to be pitchers in here. A lot of the pitchers aren't worth it. So a lot of the people are like, okay, Lefty, the MLB draft is happening right now. We want you to at least give your first little snippet onto it. So here, I'm going to talk about this more on Wednesday's episode with Paul, but I'm going to give a Lefty Cards short snippet on the MLB draft, as it is not completely finished yet, but I do like some of these picks. Some of the ones I am most excited about are people are like, obviously you're very excited about Travis going for, I think it's Bazana, Travis Bazana. I should have looked up the pronunciation of that because I read it all the time, but I actually haven't said it on a podcast. But Travis goes number 1 overall as a second base from Oregon State, goes to Cleveland. I believe Cleveland did this to save some money because Charlie Condon and some other guys that were up in that top echelon, I believe they could save a little bit of money with Travis, and they go ahead and make that move. When they did that, I think it was a little bit of a safe play. So for me, as an investment standpoint, I'm more interested in Charlie Condon as I am in Travis because the premium position is obviously very important. Oregon State is a very good profile, but we've seen Oregon State players come out like Nick Madrigal that also played second base there, and he was all a really good college player, but not necessarily a great player when it comes to So that's how I feel about Travis there. I'm very excited about Charlie Condon as he is the outfielder from Georgia. Nice SEC school, got an incredible resume coming out of college, has like super electric exit velocities, plus is going to be in the Colorado Rockies system, which I believe that he'll be able to move fast in, especially as an advanced college hitter. He's able to move up that list pretty quickly, but I do think that there's a small problem with him, and that is that he is a Colorado Rocky himself. So then you look to the next advanced hitter. You look at Nick Kurtz, following out of that Wake Forest team that had an incredible run in this early part of this draft with, I believe, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Next one, I believe, is so there's three Wake Forest grads drafted in the top 10, which is, I believe, the first time that's ever happened. But you have Chase Burns going at number 2. He's a pitcher that's going to go to the Cincinnati Reds. Then you have Wake Forest going at number 4 again. We have Nick Kurtz that's going to play first base with the A's. Don't believe he ends up staying at the A's. Probably ends up getting moved because they have Soderstrom there, and they also will be able to move some of the other guys there. He's young enough that I believe, unless Nick Kurtz just forces his way up, I don't think that Nick Kurtz ends up making his MLB debut with the Athletics. They'll probably try to move him, I would think. Now that's again, that's speculation. Then you have the next hitter going, West Virginia, JJ Weatherholt. I really like this guy. I like his projectability, especially as a Cardinal. There's a good market there, good prestigious club that he's going to. You've obviously got the pristine position there. JJ Weatherholt, I believe, was going to be the guy, one of the big guys that goes, even though he's all the way down at pick number 7. I still like the where he falls. He is in the MLB ranks. He ends up 4th behind. You have Oregon State player Travis Bazzana. You have the second place is Charlie Condon, and then you have Jack Caglione, who's a pitcher out of Florida. He's a two-way player, actually. So Caglione could end up doing, being relatively weird in terms of value. JJ Weatherholt looking pretty good out of West Virginia. For a long time, thought he was going to be able to go number 1 overall, but goes to the St. Louis Cardinals. A good investment there. But this is the first guy that I'm really excited about. Christian Moore going to the Angels. It says second base from Tennessee. He's played all over for that Tennessee squad. I believe he's athletic enough to change that position, but I don't know specifically about the range. But his offensive profile, I like a lot. He reminds me a lot of Termar Johnson when he came into the Pirates system, but from a different aspect. This guy's coming from an SEC school that absolutely ripped the ball. He comes in as the MLB has him ranked 13th. I think that's probably in my opinion, it would be low. And then the guy that I would put above him in terms of the guy that I'm most excited about from a card perspective is Braden Montgomery. This outfielder going to the Boston Red Sox off of the Texas A&M squad absolutely lit up college baseball and then got injured in the College World Series. He has some concerns, but he hits from both sides of the ball. He's a corner outfielder, though, not a premium position, but he will be a masher. And I see a little bit of Carlos Gonzalez in him, but him going to Boston Red Sox is going to be really good for a market standpoint and is really the first premium team that is coming off the board. You have a lot of low market teams. You got Cleveland, Cincinnati. We've obviously seen Ellie De La Cruz change Cincinnati's market. We've got the Rockies, not a big team there. We got A's, White Sox, and Royal. It's just a bunch of teams that you're just like, not really excited about all that. And I think that does play into a little bit of when these cards are getting sold. And then you first have your first big market here outside of Connor Griffin going to Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm sorry, Pittsburgh Pirates not a big market, but they have a lot of investable cards lately, and that's what I really mean. You have Boston Red Sox and Braden Montgomery. It's a good pairing. I believe he would be the chase of draft 2024. Right before the 2025 season comes out. So Braden Montgomery is the guy that I'm most excited about. I like Cam Smith in the Cubs as well. But a guy that could also be really fun to watch, I don't know from a card perspective, is Jurangelo. Jurangelo going to Seattle at 15 is really funny because he's going to be the first dual power pitcher from both arms. The guy could get Tommy John surgery in one arm and still have a whole nother arm. So let's jump to another ad, and then we're going to jump to why I believe now is a good time to move out of some of your baseball investments before you move into football or other investments at the National.
Lefty, we say that breaking is not necessarily a sports card strategy, but there's a lot of great things going on Whatnot other than breaking. They now have singles auctions and an improved overall experience on their platform. I want everyone to know that they can get $15 free on Whatnot by joining Whatnot through this URL. Go to whatnot.sportscardstrategy.com. That's whatnot.sportscardstrategy.com. Lefty, back to you.
Use that link to get you some good discounts on the Crimson Texas Roadshow Whatnot stream. They are setting up some of the things we talked about last week in terms of what they are doing for their blind rips. It's going to be pretty exciting. A lot of fun over that. Those guys have a lot of fun. We trust them a lot. And go to Texas Roadshow on Whatnot. Okay, one of the last things that I'll talk about here is we've talked about this over the last couple of years, but if you're new to what we do here at Lefty Cards or at the overall Sports Card Network on nooffseason.com, we love to sell at the All-Star break for baseball. Sometimes, and actually over the history, we have seen a lull except for from the majority of players, except for the minority case. We have seen a lull in baseball card sales between the All-Star break, because that is also where the trade deadline is. With the All-Star break and going forward, we will see how after July 31st, we will see how baseball takes a lull between then and October. There's a lot of it's called the dog days of summer. It's called the dog days of the season. It's where there's a lot of like a lot of status quo, a lot of nothing is really happening. There's some call ups, but a lot of the big call ups will happen early, and then there's going to be some call ups in September. This is where a lot of the baseball cards I would have you getting out of is it at this All-Star break. A lot of the players that we're excited about are on those all-star teams. They're doing competitions this week. A lot of summer money is coming in. It's right before the National. Get out of baseball cards while you can. As an overall market perspective, I would say that now is a good time to get out of MLB veterans. Now, there is some call-ups that we're still going to hold on to. I still think that Kobe Mayo is to come. We have James Wood that's already come out from behind us. We have some of the guys like Roman Anthony and Xavier Isaac, and some of these other guys are not going to potentially get called up this year. But I believe that now is a good time to sell MLB veterans. Some of the guys like Juan Soto, some of the guys like, Aaron Judge, all these things, unless you want, I think even Shohei Ohtani might be a good sell right now because he's over his projected home run account for next year, but he could have a bad second half. Play on the good first half and the people dreaming on the second half. People are dreaming on profit. You can crystallize it. And that's really what I want you to hear. Don't dream on profit, crystallize profit. Sell it to people that are dreaming on profit and get your money back, move it into another player. So if you have room that you are bought guys in early in the season or before the season and you can move out of them, I would go ahead and do that now, as now is a good time to have a selling marker for generic baseball cards. Now, now I would still look at your charts. I would still be smart. I would still look at your specific situations in terms of specific prospects and things like that. In terms like Kobe Mayo is probably in the future and some other things. But for the overall general, for the term of being overgeneralizing, now is a good time to potentially move out of baseball cards. As I said earlier in the show, we would love to answer your specific questions. I know it's only been 45 minutes today, but I wanted to be able to get an episode out. I know it's just me. I usually don't have a lot of talk back when I'm talking about myself, so I get all the data out, so it's not necessarily a longer episode. So you're getting 45 minutes of Kindle just packing in some stuff from cards. The last thing I did want to say is I did want to mention I am selling Alcaraz right now with his back-to-back championship in Wimbledon. I believe we are going to be able to move into better cards as the Topps Chrome Tennis is going to be coming out with Yannick Sinner and him both in that set. I believe those two will be the next big guard in terms of tennis, and I want Alcaraz to be, I'm going to move out of him while I can. I ended up selling 2 of my PSA 9s this week from the out of 500 short print sideways tennis action with not the green, but on the clay court. I moved out of those 2 cards, got my money back essentially, lost a little bit, but I'm going to move into a Alcaraz auto in the future for a long-term hold. So that's another thing that I might look at for the National. Might look at some things like a Gretzky or maybe an Ovechkin as the record is out in front of us for him. But some things that are potentially just a little more rarer. All right. For those of you, I will see you at the National. I'm excited about being there. NoOffSeason.com, Sports Card Network. We love you. Guys, peace.
Lefty, great work on today's show. Thanks for supporting Lefty Cards, part of the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network. Get a free 30-day trial today at NoOffSeason.com to check out our formula-based sports card rankings to help you make money flipping sports cards. Subscribe to Lefty Cards on YouTube and follow us on socials by visiting leftycards.com.